What's up, guys? Ronin Man here. I'm back in Thailand and at my buddy Charlie's house. How you doing, Charlie?
Hey, how's it going? Welcome home.
Hey, we're actually doing the summit at Charlie's house, so we're kind of warming the place up here a little bit. Yeah.
So, yeah, once they hear the song of Thailand, they always come back.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a lot of friends who never, you get stuck. I mean, maybe mentally, yeah. But like in reality, so many people get stuck when they go home. It was even for me, it was easy to get stuck because, I met so many people and they wanted me to stay, right? Yeah. Like in Santa Cruz, especially. There was a bunch of guys who are like, we'll set you up, get your business going, and they wanted me to stay. They really, a lot of friends, really, and I mean in a good way, like good guys, giving me good opportunities. And it gets difficult. Then, of course, you got pressure from family. They don't want you to leave, just stay here, don't go anywhere, And I think my family saw it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because I had never been back for any period of time. And I came back for the court case for my daughter, and then that brought me about a year and a half, right, of the 3 years working on the court case. So they thought, this is it. If we're ever going to get him back, here's our chance,
Well, here's the thing with expats living overseas, from the let me talk about the United States because that's what I know. I hear a lot of people in the expat world, on social media, talking about how much better it is for them in Thailand or the Philippines or wherever it is that they're living in their expat world, and they tend to knock their home country. I don't do that. I think the United States is great for what it's good at. I mean, if you're young and you're ambitious and you want to make money, the place to be is the United States. That's where you can get stuff. If you have an entrepreneurial spirit, where you can express that in a successful way is a place like the United States. I have family in New York and Pennsylvania, my daughters and my grandchildren, and I visit them twice a year, and I love it when I'm there. I have a great time when I'm there. I just got back from a trip where I spent 2 months in the United States, mostly in New York, the first month in New York, and then I traveled to Chicago and the West Coast and then on to the Philippines. But I always have a good time there. I mean, there's wide open spaces in places like Wyoming. There's cities. Now I love Asia. This is my home. But I don't knock the United States.
Well, I think what you're talking about is a good point. What it is what I think you're really talking about is people that are not happy where they are. They're not happy anywhere.
That's right. And
that's a very big problem. And it's really common that people will think, like they'll be like, okay, I hate it here. I'm not happy, but Ronin's happy over there, so-and-so's happy over there, so I'm going to go there. And it's like they end up hating where they go, right? And for a number of years, and then they become, like they'll even talk really bad about it. Like I knew a guy in Japan who just could not talk anything good about Japan. Every single day, he would just go on and on about Japan. And it drove us crazy because it was just like, we all love Japan, and it was like, and then now all these years later, that's like 30 years ago, he longs for Japan. So I think what you're talking about is like lost, unhappy people, lost, unhappy people. They are not going to be, they're not, I guess going overseas maybe can help them, I think. I don't think it's a totally futile attempt for lost, unhappy people that they might find their niche somewhere where they kind of get grounded somehow, somewhere. But the idea that they're going to get the problem solved or that it's going to be perfect somewhere else, those are not true. Those are definitely not true because I think like myself, like when I was home, I had a great time too. I really enjoyed New York a lot. Essentially I would live there for almost a year, right?
My hometown.
On and off. Yeah, and I really liked it. I think that New York is the only city in America. There's no other cities. There's only one city. There's only one real city in New York.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think so. The other ones they're good. They're different. They're not cities. They're not like Tokyo. Like Tokyo and New York, very similar. So people from Tokyo, they're very happy in New York. And same with people from Beijing or Shanghai or Hong Kong because they're cities, right? They're real cities. And there's just so much. I don't want to diss like Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is great. I think Los Angeles is underrated, but it's not a city. It's not a city. It's not that same like level of complexity of everything when you just walk out the door. You have to go looking for stuff in LA, New York, and Tokyo. You just walk out the door. You don't have to. You just walk out the damn door, and you're going to find stuff. So I had a great time. I learned a lot. I think I went to, I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing about 25 states. It worked out. It was crazy because I attribute a lot of it to my daughter, right? Because I wanted to have a kid, right? And then I had a kid. And even though it wasn't great circumstances, she was the only thing that could bring me back to America, right? Nothing else would have brought me back, left Asia, right? But I was willing to give it all up, And I did. I just said, okay, I'm going to go in there. And I fought all the way. I fought all the way to the Supreme Court, right? As far as I could fight, until I finally was told that you're not going to win. Like when I got a real top lawyer, he said, there's no way you're going to get what do you want? And I told him, and he said, you're not going to get that, And he was a very experienced appellate lawyer, one of the top appellate lawyers. And he was cool. He told me a lot of his own personal stuff. He lost his own case. He was really honest with me. And that was what convinced me, is I got to give up. But if I went as high as I could go, right? And I left the appeal in the middle, because I realized it was a new judge, and there's no way they were going to rebuke this new judge in the way that I wanted them to. I wanted them just to say, this is bullshit, and just turn it over. And he said, that's not going to happen. So, but the key thing is that my daughter drew me to the States, right? And a lot of the things that I espouse on Ronin Man, which is like being unblackmailable, and also, getting out of the U.S. for taxes and things like that, right? She brought me back into all that stuff, right? And I actually caught up on all my taxes. I got all legal everything. For you guys that don't know, most expats in other countries, they don't have to file any taxes to their home country. So it's a pain in the ass, because you already do your taxes in the country you live in. You're paying taxes, right? It's just that you have to file papers in America. And other countries don't have to do that. So a lot of Americans, when they're overseas, they get behind in their paperwork, because they're already doing taxes all the fucking time, right? They're paying taxes. They got an accountant, right? They just avoid, because the U.S. is why do I have to do it twice, right? It's crazy, And so anyway, I was one of those guys. And so I did get all caught up. And it's good for me, because if I inherit any money, or if anything comes, it'd be nice to be totally ready to go, right? So my daughter, it's funny. It's a mix, right? You want to be free. You want to be independent. But the reason why you want to be free, the only reason why you want to be independent, is so that you can make choices. Is you're not pulled around. You for example, there's a bunch of people in a party, and they're all losers, and they're all trying to get your attention. You don't want to be pulled in by these people, but there might be one person you really want to meet in that party, and you do want to talk to them, right? So I think that's what I'm always looking for, is to avoid those time wasters, and then be able to, of my own mind, to decide who I want to talk to, where I want to spend my time, what I want to devote my time to. But most people, their whole life is being pulled by the government, pulled by people, and all that. So when my daughter drew me back, people got confused, because I wanted to do that. It was my decision. I envisioned it, I created it, and I went into it, right? And because of that, it drew me into a lot of things, because I was overseas 30 years, right? Actually, technically, I would say more than 30 years, 32 years. I started, being overseas. And in 32 years of not being in the States, you get really behind on shit, right? So when I was back, I kind of I got caught up on some stuff, right? And it was good for me.
So what's the stuff that you learned?
What did I learn?
Yeah.
God, it was so many things. I got to think about it. It's difficult to think. I think, God, there's so much. I can go through the cities and stuff. One thing I learned one thing that I got out of the trip back home was I made a ton of friends in America. Because through Ronin Man and through various any kind of groups I joined, or just, I realized that I had, let me let's backtrack. So when I used to go back to America, so I'd live here, right? Live in Japan, live in China, and then I would go back, and I would always go back to my hometown because my parents are always trying to get me to come back, my family, right? So I would go back and be with them. And, my neighborhood hasn't changed since I was in high school. Like literally, if you close your eyes and you look at the buildings, there's no difference. You go down to the beach, the only thing that's different is the payphone's not there anymore. There was a payphone down on the beach, and now it's not there. For a long time it was just broken and there was something there, but I noticed now they took that down. So there's no other change. There's nothing that's changed. Like it's crazy, And so when I go back, I would be in that same scenario, and because of that, I was stuck in like an old mindset back there.
It would trigger all memories. Yeah.
Well, I just saw the world through my eyes as a younger man. Yeah. I hadn't matured. I hadn't had a mature view of America. So when I went back, and not only I went to all these different states, and it forced me to update my thinking, but also it opened my eyes to so many things because it was really a pleasure, Charlie. It was such a pleasure because people opened their house to me, and this is during coronavirus when everybody was shunning other people. I did the exact opposite. I got on the road. Gas was nothing. Gas was almost free, right? And there was no traffic. We drove across, get this, we drove across America, starting from California. And the first time we hit traffic, okay, this is like I don't know how long that drive was. It was maybe 6 months or something. The first traffic was between Boston and New York.
Yeah.
And it was a Sunday evening. Yeah. And we were coming, and my brother had told me how to avoid it. He said, take this one bridge. And I didn't do it. We I don't know why, we just skipped that bridge. It was a $50 fee or something like that. So we skipped that bridge, and then $25, $50. And then we took the other way, and then it turned out to be traffic. But that was the very first time. That's how few cars were on the road. Like it was like a free. It was like the '60s. We were me and Chime Time and Ray and Joel and Nelson. We were just driving like it was like free roads, and the cops weren't even giving speeding tickets. Like there was nobody on the road, so we had the whole place to ourselves, and it was a lovely trip. I mean, it was fucking great, and gas was so cheap that we never argued about buying gas. Like literally, whoever was standing next to the pump just paid. Whoever was in the bathroom didn't pay. Right? We never said, "Oh, last time," because it was so cheap. But now we would have been totally different. Right? So it was a once in a lifetime. So I give that credit to my daughter. My daughter brought me back, got me caught up on a lot of things I needed to get caught up on. She led me into really taking my skills as a kind of a nomad. And really using those to make friends all over America. So now I have friends every city. I get friends all over the place. Yeah. And I could do another Ronin tour tomorrow. I could announce we're doing it again, and that would totally work out. I'm 100% sure. And that's crazy because I didn't know the U.S. was somewhat unknown to me. It had changed a lot. It was daunting to me because I was overseas a lot longer than you. I was gone for so long, and I came so young that to me the U.S. was completely unknown. You can't even imagine. I didn't know what the fuck was going on there, and I knew I didn't. I was starting to get uneasy about what I knew, So anyway, so as I went to the cities, I saw like prices of real estate in different places. So I found the best places to buy houses in America, because I had a real estate background. So I was, can't help but use that when I went to these cities and I asked questions. And so I learned like places to live, like Pensacola, great place to buy a house. Another place would be Columbia, in South Carolina, North Carolina. Anyway, that city had some great deals. And there was a few places where I found Centerton in Arkansas. Was Centerton, yeah.
Okay, so Nashville is on the rise these days, I hear.
Nashville, it's just a lot of crime. It's not good. Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend. And not that it's not. I'm sure people in Nashville, like I spent a lot of time in Memphis, and I have a good friend there, and I always had a great time in Nashville too. But if you know people, any city can be great. Like I said, I'm happy anywhere, so I don't want to diss Nashville. What I'm saying is, if you compare that to all the cities in the world, what's the most attractive place to live in 2023? I wouldn't put that on, anywhere up there, just because of the crime. The crime thing is very serious.
You use the word nomad, and you're one of the few people I know that actually live that lifestyle. You don't have a lot of stuff. You're not tied down by property or things. You do have some things, but not much. But most people don't live like that. They call themselves nomads, and they're more like me. Like I came here to Asia 12 years ago on a work contract. I went to Singapore on a work contract. I didn't come to Asia because I was on some kind of a quest. But I fell in love with Asia, and over time I got rid of my stuff back in the States. I sold the house, I gave my car to my daughter, and slowly, got rid of my stuff, right? Well, here I am now. I'm settled down for the last 6 years in Bangkok, and I'm accumulating stuff again. It's just a natural way of living to me. I'm not a nomad, and most of the people I know of that claim to be living that nomad lifestyle do the same thing as I do. They'll find a new place, settle down, and they'll buy a motorbike. They'll start with a motorbike, and then they'll be like, "Oh, I need a car," and they'll get a car, and I need a new couch, and I need a new this, and I need, and I'm not knocking it because it's what I've done. I've just built this. Right now we're sitting in a bedroom that's the size of a studio apartment in New York City, and in a 4-story house. This bed, I call it a bedroom. It's also a yoga studio and a photography studio, and that's just one room in a 4-story house. So you can imagine the stuff that I've accumulated here. And it's I like Asian life, but again, I'm not one of those people that's going to knock the United States. I think that the United States, what it has to offer for people, more for young people. I'm old, I'm retired, and it's like I'm looking for a more laid back lifestyle. I guess the big difference between the United States and Asia, the places that I've been in Asia, which are Singapore, Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines, what Southeast Asia has offered for me is women. When I arrived in Singapore, I was 60 years old, and I just accepted that the romantic aspect of my life was coming to a close, and I was okay with that. I'm happy alone. I don't need people to be connected to. It's nice to have them, and I do have people in my life, but I'm also comfortable alone. I have plenty of stuff that keeps myself busy. Well, I got to Singapore, and all of a sudden there were these young women. 25 to 35-year-old women. This is when I was 60. This is 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I had these really hot, skinny women chasing me, chasing after me. And I was like, really? And so I found that is available here in Asia for older guys. If you are an older guy with some means, a man of means, you can find really lovely relationships here with women who have more traditional values. Everybody complains about how that's missing in women in the West, and I suppose it is. I think it's just changing. I'm not going to knock what's going on. If you're born into the culture, you're going to adapt to that and find whatever works for you. But for an older guy that wants a more traditional kind of relationship, that's available here. With really nice, caring women who will do the dishes for you and wash your laundry and iron your shirts.
See, to me, it's all a prison. Like all this stuff in the house here is a prison to me. And a relationship like a committed with a traditional girl is a prison.
I got news for you, Ronin. Yeah. You're not an average guy.
Yeah, to me, I don't. It's not that I'm totally against it. I understand the magnetic kind of nature of it, but it's like I think it's good to have the discipline not to do it.
What I think it is. I think it's rooted in status. We are seekers of status. We're looking to build our status, and we show that we symbolize our status by stuff.
Yeah, and people. Yeah.
Yeah, and you seem. Yeah, well, in my case, having a hot young girlfriend is certainly a status symbol.
100%.
And you seem to be immune to that.
I don't buy into that. I don't. It's that is a great point. I don't know why, but I don't. Maybe because I don't know why actually. I could come up with theories. That I would say. Okay, here's a theory why I don't care is because in Japan when I went there. I was successful, right? And I started headhunting. Well, I did a lot of things before that was, you could call them definitely successful. I was making tons of money and saving tons of money, but I didn't think of it as real success because I always see other people in my family who were super rich, right? So I thought it was like pennies, right? Compared to what could be done, right? And then, so I never thought about that as success, which is crazy now to look back, because I was making really good money and having a really good life too. It was a very successful life, actually. But I wanted more. So then I started headhunting. And then when I headhunted, I was really good at it. And it's crazy now to think about it. I made $105,000 one month. And that was 3 deals, because it's like 30, let's say average 33 grand a deal. I had a minimum of a deal a month. If you didn't do a deal a month at my level, you were a loser. You'd get fired, right? And so that's 33 grand a month, every month. And then that's a lot of money in a year, right? But at the time, I just took it all for granted. I just invested all the money in other crazy businesses. And then I thought, I got to make more money, so I got to do something. It wasn't that I wanted money. I never cared about money. I wanted to, here's what it was. When somebody moved to Japan when I was about 1998, right? And I realized I was not fulfilling my potential, because I have so much different things I'm good at, right? And I saw them, and I was just embarrassed for what I was doing, teaching English at the time. I was a college professor teaching in high schools. I had a privates, business. But I thought, this is embarrassing. I got to do something real, And then I started headhunting. And then I thought, okay, this is real. Now I got to own a headhunting company, go public, just because I can, right? It's like a guy who can really run, but he's just jogging, right? But he can be a world-class runner. I was like, I'm a world-class guy. I can do any business. I can sell. I could lead. I could manage. I could learn. I'm like, why am I just sitting here at the, just doing this, right? So then I did these things. And then when I think this is actually it. It's not just a story. What happened was, now I'm looking at my own mind right now of what was going on. I worked with a guy named Brian, right? And Brian was in the same fraternity I was in. And so when I met him, he was all stoked I was in the same fraternity. He hired me. And I made very good money with Brian. This is back in 99 or 8. And Brian was making really good money. He was making about, I think we made $8 million. Me, him, and one other guy. We had $8 million in revenue in like 99, right? And it was like huge. And most of it went to him. And so he bought like a racing balance engine BMW M3. He had like a huge house with a whole top of a building in Tokyo. He had like 2 girls that would always do threesomes. One Japanese, and the other girl was African because he likes black girls. And she was that first one. Now he's married to an African. She was Brazilian. She was black Brazilian, real cute, like tiny little black girl. She was hot. She was friendly. She could cook. She won the samba competition for Brazil. Yeah, she was like the number one. That's why she went to Japan as a samba dancer, and so he was dating her, and she was really nice too. He was such a nice person. So I was always there because I was his top earner. So he always had me around, and then he had a summer house, which I ended up renting myself later, right? And so I looked up to him, and I saw what he was doing, and then I was really involved in his company and everything. And then I just suddenly realized that I didn't care about any of the things that he was doing. Because he spent like $5,000 a night going to like bars and stuff. Like he literally, he'd throw like $5,000 a night just at girls and places. Like Tokyo is when I say city, I mean like it's so much stuff to do. If you want $1 cup of coffee, you can get that. If you want a $5,000 a night, no problem. And it's even, like it's worth it. Like the Japanese, there's a reason why it's more, right? You're getting more, right? And so it's not just like it's not like a scam where you walk in and they just charge your credit cards and beat you up and drug you. You know what I mean? It's like there was value. It wasn't things I valued, but there was definitely things you get for that price. And I looked at it and I just suddenly realized, because Brian was saying to me, you can be like me. You are talented. You can be like me. You can be making this kind of money. And I was like, wow, I felt very complimented that he said that about me, But at the same time, I looked at his life, and I just saw it as just a lot of stuff. Like he had everything that needed to be taken care of. He often like had a fender bender with his car. He was getting it fixed. Just stuff, like paying rent and making sure this thing gets done. And it was just like I looked at it and I thought, I don't want that life. I really don't. So then I quit, and then I got really stressed. I thought I was having a heart attack. I not a heart attack, but I felt like I had a tennis ball in my chest because I was working so hard. I was working so hard and so stressed. I went to the doctor and he wouldn't even x-ray me. He just goes, it's just stress. And I was like, I can't be stressed. Like, I'm a surfer. I've always been relaxed. And he's like, you're under too much stress, you know? And I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm just realizing this is the moment. And so I tried it, you know, and I was on the road and I could have kept going if I wanted to. But I looked at myself and I thought, fuck, I'm going to die of a heart attack, you know, at 50 or whatever. You know, I'm going to make a bunch of money. I got everything you need to do that. But I'm going to go down this high stress where you just get stressed when you're at that level. When you're making a lot of money, it's just stressful. Like the type of people you have to deal with and the complexities and the subtleties of everything, the way that you're doing everything and the razor's edge you're always on with everything. It just gets stressful at some point, you know. You can't be totally relaxed and be making that kind of money. There's no way. There's no fucking way. And so I said, Brian said, kind of, what do you want to do? And I went for an interview. I told Brian I'm going to quit. And he called me back and he said, don't quit. He said, just stay here. You know, you're gonna end up, because I was making good money, but I was gonna end up. I was just at the verge of really breaking out into big money. I was gonna lead a team. You know, I would have been balling in the next year, maybe $1 million a year, something like that. And he said, you just have to work a little harder. And I looked at him and I thought this, and I looked at his belly and I looked at his life and everything I thought about, and my chest, you know, I had that thing in my chest. And I just thought, I'm not going to do any of this. And so I didn't know what to do. I went home and I bought a ticket to India. I just bought a ticket to India one way. And I called my girlfriends. I said, hey, if you want to come visit me in India, you know, we can cruise around India. So I just got on a flight to India and landed in Madras and Chennai. And I just bought a motorcycle. Like I got a real nice Bullet, and 350 Bullet, brand new, and I just started driving around and making friends. I went to meetings and I met tons of guys, and I made friends with one of my friends he had a diamond mine, and another guy had it's funny who you meet in India because as an expat you're kind of like not. It's weird what you end up running into. Another guy his son was racing cars in London, and I was hanging out with these guys, and they were into like 60s music, and it was weird. It was super surreal, my India time. And then I ended up leaving Chennai and just driving around the country, just temples and surreal experiences, one after the other, almost dying on the motorcycle many times, you know, and just craziness. One of the craziest things that ever happened was I was driving at night, which everybody told me not to do. I was driving at night. It was somewhere near Goa, up on a coast highway, and I was driving, and there was a truck, and he just drove directly at me, trying to kill me, because the Indians don't ride motorcycles on the highway, especially at night. So he probably thought I was crazy, you know. There was no motorcycles. India, they only drive on the streets in cities. Nobody goes like long. It was too dangerous. But this guy was driving directly at me, and because I would try to move and he would come straight at me, and he had these huge high beams straight in my face. Couldn't see. It was pitch black. It was just a truck coming straight at me with lights, and I had no choice. I'm a very good rider, but there was no place to go. The only choice I had was to drive into the darkness, off the road. And I didn't know if it was a cliff, barbed wire fence, rocks. I had no idea. Because I kept trying to get around, you know, and he kept moving in my way, trying to run me over. And I just said, okay. I just made a decision. I drove directly into the darkness. And I just went into a field, like some kind of large farming thing, and just go over everything. And I was going pretty fast. I was going not really fast, but for that bike, I was probably going 60 miles an hour. And I didn't even crash. I ended up in the middle of the field, and I was just like, oh my God, you know. I had these like life-threatening, crazy situations where I can't tell you how radical that was. Driving into the darkness. I mean, it's like suicide.
And this was your idea of lowering stress.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I had a
Like
bunch.
I said, you're not an average guy.
Okay. Yeah. And I had a bunch of things like that happen that were so weird. And it was just like, and then afterwards, well, of course, I stopped driving at night, but I had such, I went to all these crazy Indian festivals where one of them was, we were driving, I had a girl in the back, and we were driving for like a week, and we would pass these people wearing purple. Everybody had these purple robes, and they were walking in the same direction. And then we found out it was like they were going to a big festival, like a once a year huge festival. Because there's 1 billion or more than 1 billion people, right? So it's crazy how many people that is. And they're just walking, for days. They just walk for fucking days. They walked for like 2 weeks to get there. And then and we're passing them. And we got to the festival, and it was the weirdest festival. We went up in the mountain, we climbed up in the mountain, and then they were kicking this guy in the face. Like he was on the ground, and he was rolling down these stone stairs, and everybody would kick him and spit on him and yell at him, and he was all covered in blood and everything, and he was rolling down the stairs. And what it was is he was the devil. He symbolized the devil in this festival, and so everybody was like kicking the devil, and it was like some kind of good luck for the next year, right? And everybody was wearing these like weird robes, and it was such a surreal experience. It was the perfect Asia moment. I mean, it was misty mountains and just music and smoke from like incense and people yelling and the guy covered in blood. And I'm with this sexy Japanese girl who just fucked the shit out of him. And I just thought, this is the best decision I ever made. I had such a great time in India. I could tell India stories forever because they were really epic. Even in my life, I put India right up there. Like the moments I had on that motorcycle were unbelievably vivid. And I just decided I was never going to go down that road again of stress. Because that feeling like I was having a heart attack kept coming back. It kept coming back. And I was there for 4 months. And then finally it was so rare that I knew it was going to go away. And it did go away eventually. And it hasn't. It kind of creeps once in a while back in. I think it's like a physical thing now. So once in a while, I'll kind of feel a little bit of the beginning of it, and I get scared, but it doesn't come back. But I realize that there's at least for me, maybe other people are built differently, but for me, there's a level of stress I just can't take. My body, maybe nobody can take it. I think most people, they overestimate themselves. I know I can't take it. So I'm like, I can't take that level of stress. There's no way. I just don't want to live. There's nothing there for me. So I realized there was nothing in, because Brian loved to show off. He loved like the fancy car and the hot girls and the money and the fancy dinners and you know what I mean? Like owning this top of a building and, just now he has a huge solar company. He's like super rich again. He closed that company, he did another thing. And he's just very good at what he does, and he really, it brings him happiness. But I went there and I realized it didn't bring me happiness. That was the main thing. And I just thought, well, what does bring me happiness? And I thought, well, traveling, and being free really brings me happiness. And so I started to realize that I was going down I wasn't going down the wrong road. I had to go there to find out if it would work for me because I'm capable. You know what I mean? Like if I don't do what I'm capable, I'm a fucking idiot, right? I'm capable of doing shit, I should do it, The mountain's there, climb it. Just get up there and fucking climb it. Stop fucking around. And then when you get up there, you can find out if you want to be there. You can always go down and go somewhere else, right? And that's kind of what I decided. I kind of like realized that there's nothing in any of this stuff. And also, another thing too is because I grew up with extreme wealth of some people in my family, that I saw extreme wealth and I realized it doesn't bring happiness. Like I'm talking real wealth that nobody on this podcast is ever going to have. Like I'm talking extreme crusty wealth, right? And that doesn't bring happiness. I actually know that from my own life. And so I realized, okay, there's nothing there in the extreme, and there's nothing really there in the super successful entrepreneur for me. Not that it's bad, but it's not, you only have one life, right? You only have one fucking life, right? And so I said, okay, that doesn't work. So I'll go turn around. Most people, once they spend a lot of time getting somewhere, then they're decided. I'll give everything up in a minute. I'll go back to nothing in 2 seconds because I know I can try again with a new thing, So that's why I don't get into things. It's because I learned that wasn't For me personally, there was, just being here and being free, I'm here hanging out at your place. Then I'll go somewhere else, tomorrow, whatever, I'll get in. And then I'll figure out where I want to live. And then I talked about this Ronin GHQ, so I got to see what houses are available and if that makes sense, and if everybody's really on board. If that's going to bring, my main thing is that going to bring me less stress or more stress? If it's less stress, then I want to do it, the Ronin GHQ. But if it's going to be more stress, I'm not into it, right? So it's got to be something that I enjoy, right? Like I enjoy making these videos. Like I'm here right now because I fucking love it, right? It makes me happier. I'll be done, I'll be tired, but I'll be happy. More happy than if I didn't do this. Because there's something in me got out, some idea, right? So that's why I don't get into this stuff. It's not that I inherently wasn't shiny object fascinated by it, but once I had it, I realized that it wasn't the answer for me.
One of the things that I appreciate about Thailand, I've been here a little over 6 years now, living in Bangkok, is there is a way of being here that's a general acceptance. The Thais call it sabai sabai, which just kind of means relax. Basically, there's an acceptance of life here that makes life more comfortable. And I've got that here. I've adopted that way of being, where it's easier for me to relax and let go of things than it is to hang on and pursue something, some kind of goal. Although I do have goals, and I stay busy, but it's that sabai that I've adopted here that is hard to find in the United States. The United States, especially New York. New York is what have you done for me lately? Hey, you're moving a little bit slow. Get out of the way, kind of lifestyle there, and that's good if that's what you're into. I mean, if you're in the pursuit of the kind of wealth and dreams that your friend in Tokyo had, go get it. Yeah. And one of the things I like about you and listening to your podcasts or your broadcasts is that you acknowledge, and we're acknowledging it right here, that there isn't one way to live a life and be happy. There's a lot of different paths that people can take. And it's one of the things that I'm noticing with a lot of online guru types these days. They have, you have to go and, work out at the gym every morning and do this and have a list of things and read this book and do these things. And, you're going to have a fulfilling life. And maybe, I'm not going to knock that path if you want to take it. But guess what? I didn't do any of that shit. And I have a really successful, happy life. I'm 73 years old, and the last 12 years that I've been here in Asia have been the happiest of my life. And I've had a good life. It's not like something changed and all of a sudden things got good. I had a good life to begin with back in the United States. And, in my retirement in the last 12 years of my life, 13 years of my life have been the happiest without a doubt. And it's I didn't take any of those paths. I had a whole different way of doing things.
I think you said a bunch of stuff. I'll respond. So first thing you said is that there's many ways to live. I don't think so. In the sense that each person has one way of looking at life and living that will make them happy. You have to find that for yourself. But that might not be the same as somebody else. It's not like each person has unlimited ways. It's more about finding the way that makes you happy, the path. Like for me, like having a lot of stress doesn't make up for anything. There's nothing that I say, okay, now I got all this stress, but man, it's worth it, because now I got these other things. It's like, no. If that crushes my creativity and my spirit, right? That makes me what I am, right? So I think it's finding that thing for yourself. And those online gurus, two things. One, honestly, most people online are very dishonest. And it's the people will say, well, because I know people online, right? I know people in person that make videos. And it's not, and here's what I want to say. There's a little bit of a jab because most people are dishonest, okay? So once you're a person, right? Now you have a microphone and you're making a video. If you're dishonest before, then you get a mic, you're going to be dishonest when you have the mic. So a lot of people, they'll say, well, online gurus are so dishonest. And they don't look at themselves as, am I being honest with people? Because all a microphone does is it magnifies your message to get it to more people, right? So if you're dishonest, like, oh, I'm doing so good, and this is the way to live, and then you're full of shit, if you tell your friends that, you get a mic, you're going to do the same thing. So these online gurus are just people like you that haven't realized. I think what it is with those gurus, what they don't know, or the average person that's dishonest with themselves doesn't know, is a couple things. One of them is like, I remember when I first tried to help guys do pickup, right? Like I went with Julian on his world tour, and we were doing boot camps, right? And I went, and he told me, like, tell these guys this stuff, right? And I looked at each person, and I realized each guy, a real good, and Julian is a good pickup, but to be really good, you have to adjust to the guy you're talking to, and find out something that he's capable of doing, that he wants to do, that he can do, that will make him attractive to women, right? Whereas when you're not teaching, right? If let's just say you're good at something, sales, whatever, you're gonna think the way to teach sales or pickup or painting or whatever is to teach them to be like yourself, because you can't see any other way of doing it. What's so great about teaching is you realize, you think your way is the way, right? But then when you see other people, you realize they can't do your way. But then they can also get the same goals you have too. So you have to totally like become very humble and realize that there's many ways. Like, who am I dealing with here? Who is this person, right? What can they do? And then you adjust. Just one stupid thing. But I remember this one guy, this pickup guy. He used to go into like a Costco or whatever, and he'd pick up a pen, and he would put it on his shoulder and say to some random girl in the store, he says, "Do I look sexy with this pen?" And then he would put it on his head, and put it on his other shoulder. And the girls would totally go for it. They'd be like, "Ooh, you look so hot with that pen." And then they would start this conversation, and then he would get their number, right? And it really worked for him. And so then I thought, that's interesting. That's such a simple thing to do, right? So then I didn't do it, but I'm so experienced in pickup, I can imagine what would happen. And I thought, it won't work for me. I know it won't work. Part of the reason is because I'm good looking. So that guy's ugly. So the reason why the pickup worked for him is because he didn't look sexy with that pen. And so the girls knew that he was making fun of himself. And they knew that he was lighthearted. And being lighthearted, not taking yourself seriously, it's very powerful because it shows confidence, right? Whereas if you actually are sexy or look good, and you talk about the pen, then you're bragging. So the way that you do good, the way that you teach pickup, the way you teach anything is by looking at that person, and you really have to mature as a person in order to teach. Because again, most people don't ever get out of that. Most people die thinking that their way is the way to do it because they just don't know other people, And so I think a lot of it is just those gurus. A lot of them don't have the experience teaching people yet, and they're not natural teachers that can adjust to the person in front of them. Who is that person, right? You have to figure out what it is that works for you. That, the only thing I would say is for people that are very deep thinkers and try stuff, it's good to listen to them. Just because they might not be exactly right, but if they're really honest with themselves and they've found stuff and they have deep knowledge of stuff, it's worth listening to their ideas, because a lot of times you come up with the same conclusions. Like their way of doing Thailand is a good way, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to always reinvent the wheel. Like you can sometimes, it's like, because that's what some people say is, don't listen to anybody, just go always by yourself and just, it's like, no. A lot of people, they've already done a lot of work. And there's not that many solutions to life, right? It's not, there aren't. There's different ones, but there's not endless, right? There's not trillions of ways to, that'll make you happy, right?
There was an English philosopher that said that there's a limited amount of ideas in the world, forever. And it wasn't a big number. It was like 650. And he said anything else was just a variation of these 650 ideas. I wish I could remember the name of the philosopher. But this is something I learned back in college days, right? It just always stuck with me. I don't know if this is true or not, but this guy had looked at it and thought about it and said, there are 650 ideas, concepts, constructs that exist in world culture, and everything else is a variation of these 650. Now, again, I don't know if that's the truth, but it's something to think about.
Right, and like also too, like you're limited by certain things. Like you have feet, you're on the ground, you're subject to gravity, you have to eat, you have to sleep. Humans have so much in common. We have health limitations, we have limited lifespans, we go through childhood, young adulthood, we mature, we become adult, and then we become older, and we have to deal with aging. So that's also a factor too. If humans were virtual, right? If we could choose, any character and just become that in a virtual reality, then there might be more solutions.
Yeah, well, everybody will always know it's virtual. Here's the thing that I've discovered traveling the last 13 years of my life, traveling around a bunch of countries in the world. Now, I teach yoga. It's good to have you back here in Bangkok. We're going to get your ass.
I am scared of trying because I
get your ass into my hot yoga studio tomorrow.
I can't even touch my feet. Like it's
get ready. You're doing it tomorrow. Okay. All right. But here's what I discovered. All right, and it's been my retirement gig. I've been a yoga teacher for about 23 years now, and what I've discovered traveling the world, being in rooms of people, practicing yoga with them, is that the one thing that we all have in common throughout the world and throughout cultures is we are all physical beings, and that's what you were just alluding to.
Exactly. Like that limits the choices you can make because you just certain things you just can't do. We can't do.
And if we could quiet the chatter, you can never shut it off. People think, I want to achieve silence through meditation. You'll never achieve it. Our ego minds want to think and want to create,
but through yoga you can
quiet it down.
Yeah.
You can slow it down a bit, and that's because that's the chatter. That's the and if you could quiet the chatter down and get more in touch with that physical being, it can very often be a profound experience.
Oh, for sure. Oh, no doubt. I look at after doing yoga, I look at meditation as a joke. It's a joke because people that meditate, if you really are a good meditator and you like it, when you do yoga and you incorporate the corporal body, the physical body, and the release of chemicals that happen with that, I can almost say you'll agree because it's like you still are meditating while you're doing the physical, while your body is releasing chemicals and you're opening your body, and it's like it is like a natural enhancer, right? It's like the morning is great.
I've had some profound experiences in the practice of yoga. I've been athletic all my adult life, but yoga seemed to be very effective at quieting my mental chatter. And as I said, I've had some pretty profound experiences. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what was going on with that. Why am I having these notions of forgiveness and serenity that I wouldn't normally have present in my life, and how did they occur? And I think I came up with an answer. It took me years to figure it out, and a lot of very vigorous regular practice of a very difficult style of yoga, Bikram yoga, for those of you who know. And it's what happens is a regular vigorous practice of this style of yoga, and probably others, is that it expands your sensual acuity. You just feel more. We are bombarded with information from the environment, the universe, much more than we can process, mentally. And what happens is we just become a little bit more aware of who we are as physical beings. We feel just a little bit more, just a tiny bit, and it can be a very profound experience. And that's what I think, that the yoga and maybe other physical practices. Yoga especially.
I've done a lot of, I would say, one thing I would say to anybody is if you are reevaluating your life, right? You're thinking, I want to change. Kind of like I went to India and you're not sure what you want to do. Like you really don't know. Like it's different if you know. Like, I got to go to, Machu Picchu, whatever the fuck. If you don't know, one of the smartest things you can do, let's say you're in your 40s, you have some money, you're single, I would say, and you have a job, a type of career that you can come back to, something that you won't be ruined if you leave. You can always come back, right? Like say you're a contractor with a license. You can always come back and start doing new contracts, right? New deals, right? You start selling whatever it is, concrete driveways or pools or whatever you do, right? Building houses or whatever. If you're in that position, and a lot of guys are on the podcast. A lot of smart guys are here. And you might lose a little bit of money because you lose a few, but you'd be surprised. If you're really good, you leave, you come back, people will welcome you back, right? So if you're like that, one of the smartest things you could do is come to Thailand, and stay for like a period of time, whatever it is you can do, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and just do yoga every day. Like just that alone. Have no plan. The rest of the time, all you do is just wander around, look at temples, go to the park, go check out some museums, maybe if you see a festival, or go try different foods, and just do that. You kind of wander around, make friends, and then do yoga every day, or basically 6 days a week.
Go to Phuket and go to Kata Hot Yoga.
Yeah.
There's a guy that's really good at teaching it. And I don't even like the guy. They call him the Mad Dutchman. He's difficult to get along with, but he's a good yoga teacher. And he has a hot yoga studio in Kata Beach in Phuket. Go there and take yoga with Govert every day. I actually went and taught for him, and we didn't get along very well.
Okay, Govert. Yeah.
Govert.
I think
the Mad Dutchman. But he's been there for. I got to give him credit. That's a really difficult business. Because it's so competitive. There's so many people in the yoga business. And he came here 20 years ago, and he's been running that studio ever since. So, he knows his stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I met you, and then I tried yoga. So you do need to meet somebody, whatever country you're going to. It is worth finding somebody who's really serious about Bikram, because you don't want somebody who's like an Instagram yoga guy. You want somebody who's you want somebody who's serious. Yeah.
There's some bimbo doing splits from hanging from the ceiling.
You don't want like beer yoga or something. Yeah. Did you ever see that? They actually have cans of beer.
They tried it here and they shut them down. They said they didn't have liquor license.
Oh really? Oh no. Beer. I mean, I guess it's better than just drinking beer in a bar. I guess for sure you're trying to do something. Right? But anyway, so I think we can close it up here. But I a lot of times as a person, what you're searching for, because people are always like, oh, what's this? Japan, China, Thailand, or what is that? They're asking all these questions that really don't mean anything. Really for me, what a country is a room, food outside, friends around, interesting things you can walk to.
Easy women.
And do.
Easy women. Come on, don't skip the easy women.
I'm not in.
90% of the guys that come here come for the bimbos.
People do, but the thing is,
you don't. But a lot of them.
That's the thing is, I don't think I don't think this is the greatest place for women. For Thailand,
it ain't bad.
To me, I'm not into it. To me, Japan is 1,000 times better. Like I can't even hold a candle. The quality of but everybody's got their thing, right? Everybody's got their thing, but I guess that might be the thing that drags people. I think as guys, we are very interested in sex. And so like it drags you to do things, right? I think a lot of people started using the computers in like 1994 because of online porn. And then actually that's what got them to get good at computers. A lot of guys in Japan, I know, that learned Japanese, they were into manga, dirty manga. They would read them and they really wanted to know what the people were saying in the manga. And I wasn't into manga, but if you have one thing, it can draw you into learning something that later on you realize there's so much, that thing, that shiny object that drew you there was just the thing that brought you into the place. So I think, whatever goal you have that brings you to Thailand, or whatever it is that you think is here, that you think will bring you here. I think at the end, to me, it's just a place. It's a comfortable, inexpensive place where you never have to wear a jacket. You never have to wear pants. You can relax. You just bring shorts and t-shirts and sandals every fucking day of the year. There's not one day where you need a jacket. Like in California, every day you leave, you're thinking, what do I need? And in New York, do I need a jacket today? Or what am I? Thailand, you never have to think about it. Like literally, that doesn't even cross your mind. You're like t-shirt, shorts, out the door.
Yeah, it was 4 degrees Fahrenheit when I was in New York in
Yeah.
December.
Yeah. Right. And that has big implications in your life, right?
Oh, boy.
Thailand is great for that. You don't even need to think about it. Just go to the thrift store, get a bunch of cool t-shirts, tank tops, shorts, and you might get some good sandals like Keen. I like Keen sandals. They're really good for walking in Thailand. I'm gonna go get some new Keen sandals. They're expensive though, like 4,500 baht, like $120.
I'm keeping the bimbos high on my list of cool things in Asia.
Yeah. See, for me, I did plenty of women.
Yesterday, Ronin and I were sitting in a Starbucks, right? And we're sitting off in the corner and we're talking about it. And some a Thai girl, not bad looking, maybe 30-year-old Thai girl walks in with an older expat who was not a bad looking guy either. He looked like he was in pretty good shape, pretty beefy kind of guy, right? And as soon as he stepped away from her to go over and order coffee, I thought at first she was checking me out, which is unusual. Women don't usually stare directly at the guy they're checking out. They want to be subtle about it, right? And then I realized it wasn't checking me out. She was checking out Ronin. She was like checking his ass out. And I'm like, so I'm laughing, right? And she didn't even see me. I'm looking at her, and at first, she was across the room, and she wasn't a bad looking girl. She was kind of cute. She's checking him out. And it's aggressive about it. Now, when her boyfriend came back, she paid attention to him. She didn't let him know. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised she even didn't notice that I was noticing. They're usually very secretive about that. But she wanted you bad.
Yeah, well, that's another aspect that's like worth mentioning is even if you don't want to sleep with girls, just being wanted, just being wanted as a man is very important for your self-esteem. So in that sense, I enjoy any country where, I'm seen as attractive, right? And whenever you're in a situation that you're seen as attractive, it never hurts. Even if you're not sleeping with the girls, even if you're not interested in them.
I told you, I sent you this message. When you told me that you were coming and you wanted to stay a few nights, I told my girlfriend, Buakaw, I said, Paul is coming. He's going to stay a few nights. Now, there's a language issue here. We both speak each other's languages, but not very well, right? So communicating is sometimes, an issue. And she's like, Paul, who's Paul, right? She couldn't remember who Paul was. And I said, Paul, who used to do yoga. And her response was, oh, Paul Handsome, she said. So that's become your last name.
That's great. I mean, I love that. It is great. I think everybody should be in a place where you're wanted. You know what I mean? Just be simply wanted. And I think I've said that before, it's like traveling. When you travel, you can find a place where you're wanted. And that is very valuable. Very valuable. Whether you do anything with it, I think one of the biggest problems with the West right now is 85% of guys are invisible to women. 85 or 90 or even 99, some people are saying. Like women just want the 1% there. And they become so militant about it that, a lot of guys are always complaining about it. The thing is, I would say from a guy's perspective, is it's extremely bad for your testosterone. It's bad for your self-esteem. It's bad for your moods. You only have one life to live, right? It's nice to be wanted. And I think that's a very good reason. Even if you don't want to do anything or don't care, just simply a place where you're more wanted than another place. And everybody will say, often girls will say something like, oh, that's because you're not wanted. Look, every girl is the same too. Like, for example, what do girls do when they're born in the countryside? They move to the city as soon as they can because that's where they're wanted. Girls always do it. They always leave their parents. They always leave a small town. They go to where they're wanted. Girls always do that, every fucking country. They go to where they're wanted, but somehow when guys do it, it's they just cannot, the scorn just never ends, And I think that's ridiculous because you want to go, like, that's a natural economic thing. Go to where you're wanted. Like you might be not appreciated in some job, right? But there's another company that's growing that they really appreciate a good sales guy. Whereas a loser company that's losing money every month, they don't even appreciate a good sales guy. You know what I mean? They got their certain clients. You just got to service those clients until the company goes bankrupt, right? For the next 20 years. Older fucking computers or servers or, AS400, IBMs, whatever. You're servicing them until the end, But if you go to a new company, a growing company, you're all of a sudden they want you just because they have a product that's worth selling, right? And they're like, you're a good sales guy. You're in here. Here's your bonuses. Here's your nice chair. Here's your attaboys. Everything that you want as a sales guy. They give you the bonuses. They give you, goals, and then you have a nicer office. Things go well, right? It's just simply being wanted. Being wanted, like going where you're wanted. It's almost like it's an imperative. You have to go where you're wanted, whether it's business, women, anything. Like if you have a family member that doesn't like you, don't call them. Like give them a bunch of chances, obviously. I never recommend breaking away from family. But I mean, if somebody really doesn't like you, there's a point where you just got to say, hey, this person just doesn't want to be around me. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to stop putting myself, I'm hurting them by always trying to be with them because they don't want to, you know what I mean? So it's like, and then the corollary is go where you want it. Go where you're fucking wanted, And that's what we'll end on that, All right, Charlie. Thanks, man. And,
Good talking with you.
All right.
And welcome back.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. Fucking A.